Hey, thanks for joining me today. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So, I just want to give an update, 1 month review on the TRM Neutron 2. This was the first March drop. I believe there was two drops in March, and so this was the first one, and I was able to get this in the textured CF handles. And so after carrying and using this guy for, I think it's actually a month and a half now, I feel like I have a better handle on, what this knife, has to offer, and if this is the right knife for you, and if this really fits the bill for me as an everyday carry. So, yeah, man, Three Rivers Manufacturing, the Neutron 2 is somewhat of like a darling child in the knife community, I feel like. Or I feel like, you know what, any knife that comes from TRM is just like a darling child. Just folks rave about their knives, there's just a lot of just positive just feedback on these knives. So before I go on to just my experience with this knife, I just want to share some specs real quick. So you got a blade length of 3 inches, and then you got a blade thickness, or rather I would say thinness of 0.090 inches, super, super thin. You got a handle length of 4 inches, and then you got an overall length of 7 and 1/16 inches, and then you got a really nice weight of 2.5 ounces. And then the price, brand new, is comes out at $217.50. So I'll round it up to about $218, and that's with this textured CF version. So this is the second version of the Neutron, hence the name Neutron 2. And the key differences that I've noticed, I've never handled the original Neutron, but from what I've seen in pictures and videos, so some of the main differences that I've seen is that this area where the blade transitions into the handle, they streamlined the design a little bit more, so it's not as like a sharp kind of a transition. And then moving forward to the inside, the internal screws, I believe in the original it was Phillips, but now they've transitioned into the Torx screws. I believe they're Torx like size 6 from what I recall. I might be wrong. And then the last major, I think, change that they did is they pocketed the liners. So the liners sit really nicely inside these milled pockets so that the handle wraps all the way around the knife. And I really like the way they did this because it does feel a little bit more refined, a little bit more finished. It's, to me, more visually appealing as well. So I think, and then I think, one other change is that in the Neutron, the original one, they had ambidextrous pocket clip holes. So they milled holes on this side, but as you can see here, they have not done so. And they also kind of repositioned the hole so that it could accept both their original clip and this now their deep pocket clip. All right, so I think that's really all the kind of the major tweaks that they've done. I really like how TRM, they didn't make these huge leaps and bounds. What they did is they made these like really nice kind of small tweaks and refinements that just really kind of ups the level. And so I really feel like in terms of their you know like their evolutionary knives, they kind of, they take they kind of follow in the footsteps of like Spyderco and Chris Reeve knives, and they just make these small kind of incremental changes that's just like really, it's not really big changes on paper, but I feel like in real world use and feel, it just makes, a big difference, and I really like that. So yeah, moving on. Let's take a closer look at the details. First of all, man, let's go on this blade. There's just a lot to talk about with this blade. First of all, they have this really nice, like stonewash mirror finish. It's like reflective. It's smooth to the touch. It's just very consistent finish. As you can see here, you can see kind of the reflection. Yeah, it's just really nicely done. It's like really reminiscent of my Spyderco Swayback, that kind of that stonewash mirror finish that Spyderco does. It's just really reminiscent of that, so I really like it. And as you can see here, they really I don't know if this is like a laser. I think it's like a laser engraving, but it's like a really deep engraving. You know, it's not just like those typical like surface laser engravings that you see like maybe in like Spyderco or you know, Benchmade possibly. You know, this is like a really deep, like it's just like it goes in deep, you know, and it has a really nice texture. And look at that stippling. It just, you know, this is Three Rivers Manufacturing, so you see these kind of three rivers kind of converge, and you see like that. It's just like it looks like a really nice kind of sandy texture around it. It's just really nice, and this is just like one of these kind of details that TRM does. You know, it just this kind of thing, this kind of detail makes this feel more like a handcrafted knife. It feels like a craftsman, you know, like engraved this by hand rather than someone just like doing a laser or stamp engraving, you know. And so yeah, it's just these kinds of fine details. On the other side, you just have a really simple, you know, TRM USA 20 CV blade. And one thing I also want to point out is that their what do you call it? Their heat treat seems to be just dead on. You know, I've carried and used this knife, like I said, for about a month and a half, doing everything from wood prep to food prep to just opening boxes, opening packages, and just, you know, just routine camp chores. And it's just the edge has held up incredibly well. There's no chips, no rolls. You know, it's still, you know, really nice. It's just really sharp. You know, I don't know if it's shaving hair sharp as of now, but oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, it's still hair shaving sharp, you know. So I don't know, like man, their heat treat on this is just amazing, super awesome, love it. And then one thing also I noticed is that, you know, the blade shape kind of reminds me of the ZT0550. You know, it's just kind of like that. What do you call this? Like maybe a drop point, a spear point. You know, so you got this like really nice like you know, shape where it just kind of goes down to this really fine tip, and then you got this really nice kind of flat cutting edge, and then it kind of gently curves upward to meet that tip. So I really like that. Yeah, the blade shape is just super functional, super just. I mean, it's just very. I mean, it's very slicey, 100%. You know, like I mentioned, you know, you got a blade thickness of 0.090 inches, and so let me see if I could bring out. Ooh, sorry about that, guys. Hijoles. Let me bring out my Para 3 here, and before I got this TRM, I feel like this Para 3 was the sliciest knife in my collection for sure. You know, you got that really tall, like full flat, you know, grind, and but check this out, guys. Look how much thinner the Neutron 2 is compared to the Para 3. So I think that really lends itself to an excellent slicing capability, 100%. So anyways, moving on here. Um, let's see. So let's move on to the handle here. So as I mentioned before, you got this kind of this space right here. It's not really a choil. You don't get enough real estate to use as a choil in any way. It's not really like an effective blade guard either. So I think really what it is like it's a really great sharpening choil for sure. You know, as you can see, the ricasso kicks all the way back there, so you're gonna get, you know, that full edge from tip to heel. You'll be able to sharpen without any flare up or any chance of it, you know, hitting like the ricasso in any way. So this is an excellent sharpening choil, and also it acts like as an indexing point. I feel like, you know, it reminds you, hey, be careful, don't go any further or you're gonna cut yourself, you know. So typically when I hold the knife, you know, I'm gonna hold it like this, and it feels really natural, feels really good. I have medium-sized hands, and I have, you know, just the right amount of real estate without my fingers feeling cramped in any way or feeling forced into a certain position, you know. So feels very comfortable. I love how they've really incorporated this nice kind of the swell to really fill in the palm of my hand. I don't feel any real hot spots. I mean, if I was to nitpick, maybe like in this area here, just because let me close this knife so I don't hurt myself. As you can see, they do kind of chamfer the edges a little bit, but they still leave a nice kind of a hard angle on the edges. And so, you got this really nice, like gentle kind of chamfer all around, all around the handle. And so it does feel like the handle are slightly contoured, but you do still, like I said, have that kind of that sharp angle. So, I kind of do feel it a little bit, like I said, in this area. But like I said, I'm super nitpicking. It's not like uncomfortable in any way. I could use this, for a long period of time without feeling any hand fatigue or hot spots. I really like how they did this pocket clip as well. There is no hot spot in my palm. It doesn't dig in any way, and it rides like I said, it rides, really deep in the pocket. If you could imagine, it'll go pretty much right up to the very tip of that handle. And that's pretty much all you'll see, And before I go on, I do like to mention this has a very slim footprint in the pocket. I mean, this thing carries so well. Like it's one of these knives where you won't even feel like you have a knife in your pocket until you need it. It's very thin. It has a very thin profile. It's very lightweight. Like I said, I think I said 2.5 ounces. So, and it doesn't take up a lot of real estate in the pocket. So if you're looking for a knife that's just really, really everyday carry friendly, it's just really just easy in the pocket, then this knife will really check all the boxes for you. So anyways, so talking about the handle, this is the textured. This is a textured CF, so it is very aggressively textured. I would say it's more textured than the ZT-0562 CF or the Spyderco Sage 1 or Sage 5. So if you have those knives, I would say this is another level in texturing. It is very aggressive. And so one thing I could say is that if you're going to be using this, if you're going to be kind of clipping and unclipping this knife frequently throughout the day, it's gonna start messing up your pocket, for sure. So, they didn't like smooth out that area where that clip sits on the handle, and it's has a very strong tension, so it will start to wear out your pocket for sure. But yeah, the carbon fiber is very nicely finished. There is no voids or irregularities or holes or anything. Everything is very consistently done, as you can see. Yeah, it's very nicely done. And then you go, and then TRM, milled, they machined this really nice like titanium deep carry pocket clip, which I really, really like. I think I prefer this clip over their original clip, which wasn't like a deep carry. But it's nicely done. It has like a dark kind of finish to it, and I feel like it really complements this knife really well. And then other thing that I really like about this handle area is this pivot screws are slightly domed, and it's going to be kind of hard to see on camera. It's very slightly domed. You could feel it though. It kind of rises up above. Not above, but it rises. It kind of adds like a nice kind of relief to the overall very flat scale, So the scale is very flat, and then you got this really slightly domed pivot screws. So it kind of adds a little bit of a, tactile magic, I would say. It just gives a nice referencing point if you're gonna be fumbling with this knife in the dark, whatnot. You kind of know like how the knife is oriented. So yeah, it's just like I said, TRM just really does it really well in just adding these really small details that on paper doesn't seem very impressive, seems actually kind of boring, but once you get it in hand, it's just like, wow, very thoughtfully designed, very thoughtfully executed. And then now moving on, you got these three back spacers here, so it adds a lot of strength and rigidity to the back end of the knife. There is no flex on this knife whatsoever. You got these titanium liners on the inside, so this is a very rigid knife. There is no flex whatsoever. Even though it's a very thin profile, it's very rigid, very solid. Yeah, so like you know, check it out here. Yeah, like I said, they pocketed the liners to you know, to kind of cover the liners up. Very nicely done. There was no movement or wiggle in any direction, just very solid. You know, blade is centered. And I gotta say, now let's talk about the action here, guys. The action, this is the smoothest knife I've ever handled out of the box. It's just so incredibly smooth, so effortless to deploy. I mean, it literally takes almost no, sorry, it almost takes no effort just to flick it. I could flick it with my thumb, I could do it with my middle finger, I could just slow roll it. I mean, it is just an incredible joy to just open and close the knife. It's just so smooth. And I took this knife apart to see, okay, did they do something special? Is there something like going on inside the pivot? And I didn't notice anything. You know, all they had was 2 phosphor bronze washers, and that was it, you know? I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, gosh, I'm just knocking this camera around like crazy. Sorry. But, you know, I think where the smoothest probably comes from is at a very, probably at a more minuscule level. You know, I think it's probably the way the blade is finished. So the tang of the blade is finished the same way. You know, it has this nice stone wash mirror finish. So I feel like it's probably that plus the way they, you know, finish the phosphor bronze washers that really contributes to this incredibly smooth action. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. You know, I just hope you could experience it for yourself. It's just an incredibly smooth action. I mean, nothing else like it, guys. And it's not like a Chris Reeve type of smooth. It's like something on its own level. And I love how TRM's been able to execute that, you know. Like they just really did it so well. And I think you notice if you watch other videos of TRM knives, most folks are gonna comment on how smooth, you know, their knives are. And I gotta agree. You know, it's just really smooth. It's a true just pleasure to just deploy in various ways. So good, guys. So good. And then one other thing I do want to mention is that the slicing ability on this knife is just next level, guys. It is next level. Let me bring out, like I said, the best comparison I can make is with the Spyderco Para 3. You know, if you've ever used a Para 3, you know how slicey, you know, the Para 3 is, right? Dude, the Neutron 2 is even slicier than the Para 3, hands down. I mean, it's not even that close, you know? This thing is so slicey. It takes almost no effort to, like, you know, slice through boxes. You know, if you check, you could check out the previous video in my archive. I took this knife to Yosemite National Park, and you see me kind of whittling wood, you know, doing some wood prep and stuff like that, and it just went through that material like no problem whatsoever. And I think one of the kind of the you know, you might see this knife and you might see how light it is and how thin it is, and you're like, oh, it's not like a capable folder. And au contraire, this is a very capable folder. Yes, I would not pry with this. You know, I would not, like, you know, do like a weird kind of crazy twisting motions with the tip of the blade. But if like 95% of your cutting task is just slicing through material, opening boxes, stuff like that, man, this knife will handle like a champ, you know. It's an incredibly functional, utilitarian slicer, 100%, guys. Yeah, so the slicing capability is really awesome. And like I mentioned, with the way they heat treated this 20 CV blade, it's held an edge really well. The edge has no chips, no damage to it whatsoever. It's just been an incredibly functional knife. So now moving on. Yeah, this is really easy to swap out the scales. All you need to do is just unscrew these 2 body screws, and then the scales just come out. The actual liners are still intact, so you could actually still use this knife without the handles. you know. And yeah, that's one of the perks of this of TRM, is that it's really easy to kind of switch out the handles whenever you want. Now, are there any drawbacks to this knife? Yeah, if you are looking for a knife that can do everything, that can pry, twist, baton, all that fun stuff, this knife is probably not the knife for you. You know, like I mentioned, if most of your cutting task is just slicing, man, this will go above and beyond, you know. But if you want something like a robust knife that could pretty much handle anything you throw at it, then yeah, I'd say probably not the knife for you. Another thing is kind of the whole the demand supply issue that they've had. You know, I mean, people want these knives. You know, not just the Neutron 2, but you know, just TRM knives in general. Like, the demand is so high, but the supply is so small, right? And so TRM has acknowledged that, and they are working to scale up their production. And so you know, in the future, I'm sure these knives are going to be more readily available. But as of now, as of April 2021, it's still a little hard to get. You know, they're still kind of releasing it in small batches, and so your best bet is to probably get this on the secondary market. You could join their the TRM Facebook group. I forgot the name of that group, but yeah, I always see knives up for sale there, and they don't, you know, the prices aren't that bad. You know, they don't do a lot of price gouging, which is awesome. It's a great community. And so if you do want this knife, you could check their Facebook group. You could check the Reddit knife swap group as well. Yeah, so on the secondary market, these are available. But if you don't want to pay, you know, more for them, and you want to get a brand new, then your best bet is to just follow them on Instagram, their Facebook group, and their website. Under the FAQ page, they'll always, like, you know, let you know when they're about to do a drop. And then if you're ready, you know, it's not that hard to get. You know, I mean, I didn't use like those what do you call it, like those click bots or whatever, to try to get their knife on their website. All I did is I just waited, and then when it was released, I got one, and it was relatively painless, you know. But yeah, I would say those are my only kind of two cons, and they're not even cons, you know. But yeah, this has been an awesome knife. Honestly, you know, one of the things that I didn't get this knife when it first came out, just because on paper it looked really boring, you know. And honestly, design-wise, it looks kind of boring, you know. But man, once I got it in hand, I realize now why TRM knives are such highly regarded knives. You know, it cuts incredibly well. All the details are just done right. You know, yeah, it's just, this is a very functional knife that has a really high level of manufacturing prowess and design. And so if that is the knife that you're looking for, I'd say go for it. You know, they also make the bigger version of this, is the Atom, and I believe the Atom is a 3.5-inch blade, but a very similar kind of design profile. And so yeah, I believe they should, you know, be, you know, more available as time goes on. But yeah, with that being said, thanks so much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, or want to share your experience, you know, drop it down in the comment box below. You know, I'd love, you know, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and like this video. If not, no worries. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Bye now.